Hello guys, Ryan from Husky Moving here, Arlington, Massachusetts. We are a full-service residential and commercial moving company. We do assembly work, we do handyman work, we do artwork mounting, TV mounting. What else do we do? Tiny bit of light plumbing, little bit of yard work. If it involves a house, we try to get it done. We get hired to do a lot of random stuff, fixing lock sets, fixing cabinet doors, stuff like that. Anyway, I want to talk to you about a situation I had this week. Nothing bad. Actually, was a good situation. Kind of random though. I got hired a repeat customer. It's like the third time I've moved her. I moved her full house like a month ago or something. She had a washer dryer she wanted to get out of her old place, which hasn't sold yet, and bring to her new place. That was what I got hired for. Washer dryer from the old place to the new place. That's all I get hired for. Show up the morning of. And she shows up right on time, frantically comes running around the truck, which I had because we were moving a washer dryer. She's like, "We're not moving the washer dryer." And I was like, okay. You gotta keep in mind, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Part of my job is, how do I say this gently? Part of my job is dictating a situation. So when the situation starts to get frantic, part of my responsibility is to get the situation back to calm. Okay? She's coming in hot. My job is to get it back to calm. And I know this already. And I know from dealing with her, her personality, she knows my personality, good things, flaws, blah, blah, blah. She's coming in hot. We're not moving the washer dryer. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Real gentle. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Come to find out, her washer dryer are gas connections, and she doesn't have gas connections at the new house. I'm completely shocked that she didn't think of this before 8 o'clock in the morning I was due to arrive. But, I do a lot of things where I'm completely shocked by the things people do or don't do. Come to find out, she never took the time to figure out what connection she had in her new place. Hard to believe, but it is what it is. My initial reaction, if I'm being honest with you, was annoyance. My next reaction was, wait, I don't have to move a washer dryer, which I knew was going to be a difficult situation because I know where it's coming out of. I know where it's going. Her new house is stunning, brand new, but like all brand new floors, new woodwork. All the trim work has been freshly painted. And it had to go up to a second floor, which by default is not a huge deal, but washing machines are typically, the newer ones are typically pretty diesel. So then my next response, point of the story is, all right, well now I don't have to move a washer dryer. Awesome. Now I've already been called out on the job. So by default, I'm already booking 1 hour minimum for this time. 1 hour minimum. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win because now all I had to do is drive over there. And now, even if she sends me home, I'm still just driving home and I'm getting an hour out of it without having to do anything. So either way. She starts to send the other gentleman off for the day. And it's just like, yeah, you can just go home. Actually, that's not true. I'm missing a step here. She's like, yeah, I want to get some stuff in the truck. Just bring it to the recycling place. And it was like what I would consider to be nothing. It was like 2 tarps. It was like 6 empty cardboard boxes. It was 1 box of random items from the house. And then some other little stuff I'm missing, but like really nothing, like not worth the trip to the recycling center. For a commercial vehicle, we paying guys a lot of money per hour to go there. I'll leave it. I'm not going to tell you what she's paying us, but she was paying us a lot of money to drive around and drop off cardboard boxes. Not the way I would have done it. Doesn't matter. Not my business. She's the customer. My job is to do whatever she wants me to do. We get the truck loaded with the stuff. Took like 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more. And then she starts to send the other gentleman off saying we don't need him anymore. And I was like, all right, not a problem. Now, by my mind, this kid's making out. Because again, he did like 5 minutes worth of work. And now he gets to go home and gets an hour worth of pay. Hopefully I don't know what he's making. Hopefully it's a lot of money. For doing very little work other than driving. Which is great. It's the dream. And then he starts to walk off. And she's like, wait. Hold on. She's like, I want you to... She didn't say that. She said, do you have time to move a dresser, and I forget what the other thing was called. I don't even know what to call it. It's like a curio cabinet type of thing, but I don't know what it's actually called. It's one of the big glass front pieces, and then they have the 4 legs, and the legs are tiny. The legs are like that thick, and they're like 3 feet tall, which is annoying because you feel like you're going to snap them off all the time. You got to be super careful with it. Do you have time to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I got time. And the other kid's like, yeah, I got time. And we're like, all right, cool, we'll go do it. So the point of this video is this. We go to the recycling center. We then go to the storage facility. And when we get to the storage facility, the woman hops on a call. She's got a work call. Very clearly doesn't really want to deal with anything. She wants us to deal with everything. We get to the unit. She doesn't have her code for the lock. Doesn't have it. So the guy at the unit has to cut her lock off. She gives 0 fucks. She just like wants it done. She's like, I don't give a shit. Just cut it off. I don't care. I don't have the code. Was like irritated that he was asking for the code. She's like, I don't have the code. Why would I have the code? And he's like, it's your code, your lock. Why wouldn't you have the code? Anyway, it doesn't matter. She just wanted to cut off. We get in the unit. There's a pretty big dresser in there, and my spidey sense goes off. All the drawers have already been taken out. It's already wrapped, and my spidey sense goes off, and I'm like, you got to look at the front of this thing, because it's very clearly an old piece of furniture. You got to look at the front of this thing. So I immediately, before I touch anything, I don't know why, but I say this all the time, but I've been doing this long enough that sometimes I just know. I'll walk into a situation, and I've already been in the situation 100 times previously, and I just know. And when I tell you, I'm not exaggerating. I walked in the unit, I looked at this piece, I immediately got down on my hands and knees, and the kid I was with was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I got down on my hands and knees, and I lifted up the blanket that was covering the bottom of the dresser, and sure enough, all 4 of the feet were in some sort of massive disarray. 2 of them, half of the pieces had completely come off. The other 2 were cracked right up the middle. So they had this big foot on it, but there's a crack right in the middle. So the 2 pieces were like going like this. 2 pieces were gone. The other 2 were cracked. I look in one of the cabinets that had been taken out, and sure enough, there are the cracked off legs. The point of this dumb video is this. The guy I was working with, God love him, he was really good, by the way. I'm not shitting on him on any level. This is another new of me shitting on him. It's more just me being old and anal is where I'm going with the story. He's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, no, hold on. I'm like, hold on. And I pull out my phone, and I start snapping pictures of all the legs before we touch it. Take pictures of all the legs, and then I'm like, you gotta hold on. I've gotta go grab the customer. I gotta make sure she knows that these are already damaged before we touch this thing. And he's like, I don't know if he was annoyed or not. He didn't say anything. God love the kid. He didn't say anything. He might have been annoyed. He might not have been annoyed. I have no idea. I went down. I kind of yelled down the hallway. The woman was down the hallway taking a phone call somewhere, and I was like, you need to come see this. And she was like, I'm not gonna say she was like visibly irritated, but like she seemed like she's visibly irritated. She comes down, she like puts her call on mute for a second, and I'm like, do you know all these feet are already broken? And she's like, what do you mean they're already broken? And I'm like, all right, come down here, you need to look at all these. I show her the ones that are already off in the drawer, and I'm showing her underneath the thing how 2 of them were already gone and 2 of them were cracked. I'm like, just so you know, these are already broken. We didn't do any of this. They were already like this. And she's like, okay, all right, not a problem. The point of the video is whenever you come upon a scenario like that where you are coming into a situation where something is already damaged, or in your mind you're coming up to a scenario that could potentially be an issue down the line, whatever that situation may be, whether it's damaged feet on a piece, or something is missing something. Like you notice a printer already has a piece of plastic missing from the corner of it, or you pick up something and a piece of glass already has a crack right in the corner of it, or if you're doing handyman work and you're gonna go put a picture somewhere, and you notice just by looking at it, you say, hey, I can tell that the ceiling and this wall are not level just by looking at it. It looks like you have a sloped floor. I just want to pre-warn you that when we hang this picture, the picture could be perfectly level, but if the rest of everything isn't perfectly level, it might look off. And what you're doing is you're protecting yourself and you're managing expectations from people. I can't stress this strongly enough. You need to manage expectations and protect yourself. Every time you go to do a job, there are a bunch of things that are on the line. Your reputation, your business, the reputation of your employees, your family, your children, your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters, any assets that are in your name. All of these things are on the line, right? And so anytime you get to a point where someone or something is potentially going to break the protection of all those things I just mentioned, you need to stop what you're doing and immediately get that protection back in place. With the leg example, that meant stopping what I was doing, taking pictures, grabbing the customer, verifying that she knew what the situation was, and then the next step would be dictating to the customer what your level of liability that you're going to assume is going to be. So in that circumstance, rather than just saying, hey, do you know that the legs on this are already damaged? And she goes, yes. There is a further step that you need to do. The next step would be, hey, I just want to warn you, it goes without saying we're going to be as gentle as humanly possible with this piece. But given that it's 7 feet tall and weighs 250 pounds and we're going down a bulkhead basement and we got to transport it in a truck, I just want to pre-warn you that all of these feet are already severely compromised. I can't guarantee that it's going to get over there in one piece without any damage. The next step would be, I am going to transport it on its side in the truck. I am not going to put it straight up and down in the truck because that's going to put the force of every bump on these feet. What I'm going to do is keep it 90 degrees rotated to the floor so that the side of the piece is carrying all the weight and not the feet. Normally, I wouldn't transfer things this way. That's not the way we would normally do it, but I'm going to do it because I want to keep the weight off the feet. I just want to pre-warn you, we're doing the best we possibly can here, but we've been given a compromised scenario, and you're asking us to get in a very difficult location with compromised scenario. Are you aware of this? Are you okay with my plan? Do you want to proceed? Yes or no? And then you shut your mouth and you let them talk. And what I've found is that oftentimes this does two things which are very, very important. The managing the expectations and then letting them know that something has already been compromised, takes down any, what's the word I'm looking for? They have an idea that something is going to get done perfectly, but you're telling them you're giving me an imperfect scenario to work in, right? That is very important. They need to know that. It doesn't mean that you're not accepting responsibility for something per se, and it doesn't mean that you don't want to do it. It just means that you need to protect yourself, right? If anything were to get damaged, you now have some sort of recourse to be like, hey, we talked about this, like I warned you, which is very important at the end of the job if anything happens. So you have some sort of protection for yourself. I lost my train of thought. There was another thing that I wanted to mention, some other thing that talking to them did. It doesn't matter. I'm going off on a tangent. But the point of the story is you got to stop what you're doing. You got to protect yourself. You got to protect your liability. You got to tell them what you're willing to assume for liability. And I just remembered. The other thing it does, and this is an important thing, very important, is oftentimes when people don't have any responsibility for something, they're very quick to ask a whole shitload of things of other people. But when you shift the responsibility back onto them, you'll then notice that they're much more cautious with what they ask of you. Meaning, if I say to this woman, hey, the legs are severely compromised, I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to get it to your house in one piece if we have to put weight on these legs. Do you want me to continue? Now, I am switching the liability from me to her, and that's very important because now she needs to make a choice. Am I willing to chance that you guys know what they're doing, Or is the value of this piece so great to me that I am unwilling to chance what they're doing, and now I'm going to switch my game plan? And that is very, very, very important, because now you're putting the liability and the decision making back onto the other person, and you're forcing them to assume some risk for their decision making, which is very important, because if they have no risk to their decision making, then they can just throw anything out into the world with no repercussions. And this is very important, because in my industry, the service industry, which is the same industry you're in, or you wouldn't be watching the video most likely, you're getting asked to do difficult things in weird situations. You're getting asked to drill through places where there may or may not be gas lines, water lines, electrical lines. And so, for example, if you say to someone, hey, you're asking me to drill where logically there would be an electrical box behind, I am unwilling to drill here unless you assume liability for any issue that arises from this. Do you want to assume that liability and put it in writing? You'll notice that very often they go from, hey, you need to drill it and put it where I want it, to, oh my God, I don't want to assume liability there. Maybe we shouldn't drill there because now it's on me. It's not on you. I can't just shift the blame over to you if something goes wrong. I have to take responsibility for the fact that this is something I'm asking you to do. Maybe I did or didn't think it through very well. Maybe I don't know the potential repercussions, and now that you've explained them to me, maybe I want to change my course of action so that I don't have to assume that sense of liability. That is very, very, very important. You'll notice human beings, when shifted the liability on them, they completely change their behavior and their requests of you. And that is very important information that you need to know. Guys, I know this is all over the place, long-winded. I hope you found some value. If you did, like and subscribe. And as always, if you want to get a hold of me, info@Husky Moving, and the website is huskymoving.com. Thank you very much, guys. Happy holidays.